Hey, I have some really interesting video for you. Elizabeth Warren appeared on The View yesterday. The View is this multi-host talk show that's really become a pretty prominent place for Democratic candidates, really for newsmakers of all kinds, elected officials, celebrities, whatever. But the Democratic candidates have been stopping at The View and talking about their campaign platforms and why they believe they should be the 2020 Democratic presidential nominee. The hosts are sort of politically diverse. The notable right winger on the show is the daughter of the late Republican Senator John McCain, Meghan McCain, and she mixes it up with some of the left leaning guests. So yesterday, Elizabeth Warren appears, a Democratic senator from Massachusetts running for president. And one of her notable policies, one of her most well-known policy proposals as part of her campaign platform is the wealth tax, a tax that would be a 2% tax on wealth above and beyond 50 million US dollars. And she was on The View, and Joy Behar wanted to hear about the wealth tax and wanted to say, how will it work? Will it affect the middle class? And Meghan McCain kept trying to interrupt. And Elizabeth Warren takes the approach of pretend I can't hear a word she's saying. And as Meghan McCain is increasingly and visibly frustrated with being unable to get a question into Elizabeth Warren just keeps talking, steamrolling Meghan McCain, and Meghan McCain becomes visibly annoyed with this. It's an interesting strategy. So let's take a look at the video. You'll be able to get most of what is going on from the audio as well. You'll hear Meghan McCain continually trying to talk. So it'll start with Joy Behar asking Elizabeth Warren about the wealth tax. You will see and hear Meghan McCain try to interrupt multiple times. And Warren just keeps on going like a freight train. McCain starts to interrupt about halfway through. It doesn't go well. Take a look.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the tax plan. I think it's time for a wealth tax in America. This is a tax on the top 1/10 of 1%, $50 million and above your fortune. In other words, your first $50 million is free and clear. But on your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents and 2 cents on every dollar after that.
But what about the middle class?
That's not the middle class.
No,
That's
I know,
the
but what
top
about
1/10 of 1%. Okay. I don't have plans to increase taxes on the middle class.
Okay.
I figured out how to do every plan I've done out there without increasing taxes on the middle class. But look at what a 2-cent wealth tax would do for us. Universal child care for every baby in this country aged 0 to 5. $800 billion into our public schools. Make it a real commitment.
Can we just switch
Universal
gears?
college, $50 billion for historically black colleges and universities, and cancel student loan debt for 43 years.
When Trump just said that we spent $2 trillion on the military, I said, I don't want anyone ever to ask Elizabeth Warren how she's going to pay for medical care.
There you go.
$2 trillion on the military. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Elizabeth Warren straight up pretending that Meghan McCain simply doesn't exist. Meghan McCain ends up sort of like the person in the corner that nobody's listening to. Now, I don't know if this is childish, but I did find it very satisfying to watch Elizabeth Warren just ignore Meghan McCain. And you can agree or disagree with Elizabeth Warren's plan for a wealth tax, but the handling of it is just delightful here. Now, at the same time, this is a TV show, and I find it compelling the way that it was handled. But I have no problem with challenging Elizabeth Warren on her wealth tax. There are arguments to be made that it's politically unlikely to become a reality. You can make the argument that it won't work, whatever, right? I mean, that's all fine. We can debate that. That's great. But Elizabeth Warren should be allowed to at least explain the plan without interruption. And a lot of right wingers, I was looking online, a lot of right wingers are just furious with Elizabeth Warren, saying Warren is in the wrong. Warren won't let Meghan McCain speak. Warren is the guest. Joy Behar asked Warren about the policy, and Elizabeth Warren is explaining it, and she can't get through her explanation without Meghan McCain interrupting 3 or 4 times. Now, I do think that there's a lesson here. When people try to prevent you from even explaining your position with bad faith interruption attempts, maybe you just talk past them and you don't allow them to interrupt you. And Elizabeth Warren running a clinic on that. There's one point at the very end of this segment, which I want to watch again with you, where Meghan McCain looks so frustrated. She actually looks offset at someone and looks very awkward. Check it out one more time. I would not be surprised. You know, sometimes on these shows, I know a lot of people who have worked on network and television shows like this, and often the relationships between the hosts behind the scenes get very weird. And there are times where the hosts aren't even talking to each other except on the show, and all communication between them off the air is happening between representatives. I'm not saying that that's what's going on here, but when I saw, we're going to see it here, when I saw Meghan McCain look off to the side, in a fraction of a second, the scenario that appeared in my mind is she is disgusted and furious with how she is being treated in terms of how much time she's being given or whatever on the show. And she looked to whoever is her representative or whichever producer has taken her aside and is kind of giving them the, see, this is what I'm talking about. You've got to fix this for me sort of look. Could be a complete fantasy. But in any case, take a look at the Meghan McCain reaction here looking off stage.
When Trump just said that we spent $2 trillion on the military, I said, I don't want anyone ever to ask Elizabeth Warren how she's going to pay for medical care.
There you go.
$2 trillion on the military. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Yikes. I feel like the tiniest bit bad for Meghan McCain, but come on, let Elizabeth Warren explain her plan. Then you can cite whatever talking point you want to cite in opposition. And please, can some Republicans, some right-wing pundits, please ask Trump administration officials, how are you going to pay for the Iran war? Please ask them, because when the left tries to do good things, you can disagree with Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax approach. You can disagree with Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan or whatever. How are you going to pay for it? We can't afford it it's on repetition from Republicans. And when you want a pointless war to help Donald Trump get reelected or to distract from impeachment, it maybe Rand Paul says we can't afford this. But come on, someone stand up on the right and say, how are we going to pay for this war? And don't do it, by the way, in the thinly veiled xenophobic way where Tucker Carlson, we talked about Tucker Carlson the other night saying this is totally misguided in Iran and that we have domestic problems to focus on. Tucker's right, except he wants to focus on all the wrong domestic problems, including ones that aren't actually problems. So I would love to see a Republican just stand up, have a spine, and seriously say, hey, guys, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for this? And does this make any sense whatsoever if we believe in checks and balances? I've not seen any serious Republican politician do that so far. Make sure you're following The David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. Continued clips and coverage of all of these stories and more there. We'll be back right after this. I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Magic Spoon. Remember breakfast cereal? When I was growing up, breakfast cereal was a really big part of my Saturday mornings. Then I became an adult and realized I don't want to be eating all that sugar. I don't want to be eating all that junk. And now breakfast has gotten much more boring. Magic Spoon is a new cereal company that has discovered how to recreate your favorite childhood cereals with 0 sugar, 12 grams of protein, and just 3 grams of net carbs per serving. They offer 4 flavors based on the classics: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry, plus the variety pack, which lets you try them all. Magic Spoon spent more than a year working with the best food scientists and chefs to recreate the taste and texture of that classic sugary cereal. But it tastes so incredible, you would never guess that it was healthy. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. You've got to try it to believe it because it tastes great. My favorite, of course, cocoa. Cocoa. Go to magicspoon.com/Pakman. Grab a variety pack and try it today. Make sure to use the promo code PAKMAN at checkout to get free shipping. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, you'll get a refund. No questions asked. That's magicspoon.com/Pakman. Promo code PAKMAN for shipping.